Hello, good morning students of class 12th commerce. Welcome to Pandra Sir's virtual class on development economics, and today our topic of discussion is Indian economy, the condition of Indian economy during British period. Students, in this series we are discussing yesterday in our first class of development economics we discussed about the condition of Indian economy before the British came to India, and today we are going to discuss the condition or the status of Indian economy during the British period, and after this we will be discussing about the condition of Indian economy after the British period. So today I am going to send all the notes, and you take the help of the notes, take the help of your books, and just listen to the videos and try to understand the concepts, and wherever you are confused, you please ask me to clarify your doubts. So when it comes to the condition of Indian economy during British period, we will divide the entire discussion into three main divisions. That is, what was the condition of Indian economy? That is the condition of primary sector, which is nothing but the agricultural sector. Then what was the condition of secondary sector, which is nothing but industrial sector. And what was the condition of tertiary sector, that is the service sector. So sector wise we will divide the Indian economy, and we will discuss its status during the British rule. Students, all of you know that the British came to India not to make friendship, but it was their deliberate policy of expansion or colonialization. They made a different part of the world their colony, and economically exploited those parts or those colonies or those territories for their own benefit or own gain. So, how did the British exploited India economically? That that is the content of the condition of that made the condition of Indian economy. Means how different sectors of Indian economy was exploited by the British people or the British power. So coming to the first point, it is the primary sector, how it was affected due to the British policy and due to the British Raj. That is, point wise we will discuss the condition of the primary sector during the British period. It is, the first point is maximum contribution to agriculture, to GDP. That means the total value of final goods produced during an economic year. That different types of goods were produced. Some are related to primary sector like agricultural product. Some are related to industrial sector like different things where we add a value in the processing, and some are related to service sector like banking, transportation, etc. So still, before the British came to India, India was primarily an agrarian country where the maximum contribution to the GDP was from the agricultural sector, and there was no change in the status of Indian economy. That means during the British rule also, the Indian economy was primarily an agrarian economy where the maximum contribution to the GDP came from the agricultural sector or the primary sector. And second point is introduction of Zamindari system. This was something the British introduced, or the British changed the plan due to their own convenience, because they were collecting tax from tenants, from the farmers, and it was a very laborious process to collect land tax from all the tenants. That's why what plan they did is that they introduced the Zamindari system, where a particular place or a particular area was assigned to a particular person called the Jamindar. He was made the owner of all the lands, and he used to give fraction of his total land to different farmers and collected tax from those farmers, and the British people, the British government, they collected tax from those Jamindars. So in this way, they made the process of tax collection quite simple. It becomes simple for the British. But what actually happened to the farmers? There was no real development. The farmers didn't gain. In fact, some mediatory comes. That means, suppose the British government fixed 1 bag of agricultural product per acre as tax, then the Jamindar would be collecting 2 bags of crop from 1 acre, and he would keep one bag of crop with him, and he would give 1 bag of crop to the British. So in this way, the actual burden on the farmers increased, and there was no real development for the farmers. The farmers actually did the agricultural activities, did the farming, but they were no more the owner of the land. So what was the consequence? The consequence was that they never pay any heed, they never bother about the actual development of the land. You know very well that in a continuous process of farming, the land actually need maintenance or servicing to keep its productivity intact. But for that we have to make expenditure. But why at all the farmer would invest in the real development of the land when he is no more the owner of that piece of land? That's why gradually the quality of the land degraded and the overall output started reducing. That was the consequences of the introduction of Jamindari system. The process made the job of the British simpler, but it actually destabilized the backbone of our Indian farmers. Then the third point is commercialization of agriculture. This is something technical in a technical term. That's why you need to understand what is the actual meaning of commercialization of agriculture. Actually, before the British came to India, India was quite self-sufficient in the production of food grain, and farmers used to produce almost everything they needed or they consumed. But now what happened? It became the British made such policy so that now agriculture become the activity of agriculture become commercialized, and that cash crops were cultivated more. No doubt it might give more income to the farmers, but the self-sufficiency of the farmers was destroyed. And what were the primary crops that you know? After the invention of spinning mill in Britain or in Europe, they needed a huge amount of raw materials for their weaving industry. So cotton was the prime requirement. So farmers were encouraged to produce more cotton, but unfortunately they were not allowed to fix the price of their produce. Actually, farmers started producing in the major part of their land holding the crop of cotton, but the British people, the British government fixed the price at its will, and whatever it was very low price, the farmers even didn't get their proper return. So it was no more any profitable activity for the farmers. So introduction of commercialization of agriculture, in this way it destabilized the Indian economy, and India became no more self-sufficient in the production of food grains, because now cash crops like cotton were cultivated more to feed the requirement of British weaving industry. Then the fourth point is no real development of agriculture and education facility. You know, India, it is popularly said that in India, agriculture is a gamble of monsoon. That means if monsoon is proper, then there would be a nice crop and which is profitable. But if it gets disturbed, means more rain or less rain, it would entirely damage the crop and there is no profitability in agriculture. That's why we need to ensure profit from agricultural activity. We need a permanent source of water supply so that whenever it is needed, we can supply water to our crop and keep it intact. But there in British period, there was no proper planning for increase in irrigation facilities and the quality of land started degrading and there was no actual development of the agricultural sector. So this was the condition of agricultural sector during the British period. Then coming to secondary sector. Secondary and industrial sector is the most neglected sector in the Indian economy during the British period. And there is certain reason behind it. Why? Why the British people never encouraged industrialization of India during their rule? There is a reason, and the reason is that actually the British did not wish to industrially prosper. Means India should not prosper industrially. Why? The reason is that they actually always wanted to keep India as a primarily raw material supplying nation and dependent on the finished good produced from those raw materials and the processing was done in Britain. So industrially Britain became developed, but India, there was no particular industrialization in India. The British used to take cotton from India at their prices and after processing they made clothes and those finished products were sold in India at their prices. So in both the way, India was the loser. And the second point is no capital goods produced. Capital goods are such goods which actually help in the process of production, process of value addition, and they serve a longer period in the production process, like making of machineries. So the British never wanted India to develop industrially. That's why they never put importance on the capital goods producing industry. So in India, almost the capital goods production was zero. And the third point is traditional technology. The British never brought and the sophisticated technology invented by them to India because it would have developed India industrially. That's why India always followed the traditional technology, and we all know the drawbacks of traditional technology where the productivity is less and the cost of production is always more. So these are the reasons why there was almost zero development in the industrial or the secondary sector. Now coming to the tertiary sector, which is also called as service sector, like banking and transportation. So it was moderately developed, and the development was not meant for actually India's development, but it was planned for the benefit of the British people. How and why? You know, suppose the British people, they want to transport raw material like cotton from here Amarkantak to Kolkata port. So just imagine how impossible or how difficult it would be to transport the raw material with the help of a bullock cart. So keeping this in their mind, what they did is that they introduced the railway sector. they developed the railway sector, and the railway sector actually they used to tell that we are doing development in India, but it was meant for actually their convenience only. And also for quick communication, they developed the post office and telegraph department. And in this way, it helped more the British government rather than the Indian people. Then the final point is occupational structure. What was the occupational structure? When we say about occupational structure, it comes to the fraction of the workforce that is engaged in different sector. And here I would like to differentiate between two terms, that is workforce and labor force. Need to understand the difference between workforce and labor force. So any person who is able and willing, both, just pay heed to the terms. Any person who is able and willing to do work at the prevailing price is a member of the labor force. But sometimes what happens, there is no sufficient job, and some people, even if they are willing and able to work, don't find work. So what is workforce? That the number of persons who are able and willing to work and actually who are working, who are contributing to the economy, are a part of the workforce. So the percentage of workforce engaged in different sector during the British period is, in primary sector, that is agricultural sector, it was as high as 72.7%. In secondary sector, that is industrial sector, it was the lowest, that is 10.17%. And in tertiary or service sector, the percentage of workforce engaged were 17.2%. This is the statistical data. You need to remember, because while giving your answer related to this part, you have to mention this data. So this is all about the condition of Indian economy during the British period, the condition of primary, secondary and tertiary sector. And today we will be discussing about what was the condition of Indian economy after the British period. That is, you all know that on 1947, 15th August, we got our freedom. The British were no more our ruler, and we were left to decide our own fate, to decide to make our own strategy, our own planning for our development and growth. So what was the condition and how we stabilized, how we changed the course of development after the British left India. So once again I remind you, go through the video, go through the books and go through the notes, what I am just going to send you, and please update with your notes regularly, don't keep it and if you fail to understand anything, then just make me know so that I can clarify your doubt. Thank you and have a nice day.